A Plaguelands Media production.
Hey everyone, this is Hugh from Plaguelands Media bringing you another book review today, so cheers. Today I am bringing you Elfshadow. Now this is actually book 2 in the Harpers series of Forgotten Realms novels. However, it has kind of been retooled to be book 1 in the Song and Swords series by Elaine Cunningham. You can see on the cover the two main protagonists, Arelyn Moonblade here and Danilo Than next to her. Fantastic cover. I actually read this book when it first came out. I was in high school and absolutely hated it. I thought it was one of the weakest of the novels in the Harper series. And since I'm kind of going back and rereading all of these books, I thought I'd give this one another go and absolutely loved it. I really didn't give it a chance back in the day, and I think the reason was because, let me just kind of fix the camera a little bit. The style of Dungeons and Dragons game that I was playing at the time, this was very far away from that. This is more of like a murder mystery kind of combined with some magic, monsters and things along those lines. But rereading it, it was a lot of fun. It was a great read, and I will be looking into other books in this Song and Sword series by Elaine Cunningham. Now, I said this was book 2 of the Harpers series. If you have watched my review of the Part C, you'll know who the Harpers are. But the Harpers are an organization of good in the Forgotten Realms that try to kind of oppose evil forces and whatnot. You can see the source book code of the Harpers actually has Arelyn Moonblade on the cover, and you can find her stats on page 57 of this. And on page 60, you can find the stats of Danilo Than, which I thought was really, really cool. Elfshadow basically is the story of Arelyn Moonblade. She is a half-elf, which means her mother was an elf, her father was human. And someone or something is going around assassinating Harper agents, and the suspicion falls on her because she, while not being a fully fledged Harper in the novel, she has ties to the people that are being assassinated, and a lot of suspicion falls on her. The Harpers believe she is the Harper assassin and want to bring her in, and the story is her and Danilo basically trying to clear her name, trying to find and apprehend this Harper assassin. Throughout the book, we get a lot of key Forgotten Realms lore, if you want to put it that way. We get places like Evermeet, the Island of the Elves, Everesca, we go to Waterdeep. There is Kelvin Blackstaff Aronson, who is one of the most powerful mages in Faerun, the Forgotten Realms. So if you're familiar with the realms, there is a lot of kind of little Easter eggs and stuff in this book that just make it that much more enjoyable. Now, back in the day, I was a fan of the Forgotten Realms. That was my D&D setting of choice when I played Dungeons & Dragons. The more that I know, now that I've kind of read and reread a lot of these books, everything just seems to come together with this one. And I think that's what was lacking when I read it the first time. There were parts of it that felt boring. Now that I know things, I know the lore of the land, I know the layout of the land itself. Part of this story happens in the Marsh of Chalimba. It just was a joy to read, or reread, I should say. And I just had a lot of fun with this. Now, I do know that back when I read this in high school, the two main characters, Arlen Moonblade and Danilo Than, pissed me off. Because Arlen is this kind of arrogant lone wolf type character, and Danilo is a bard slash mage. He'd be a dual class character if we were playing the game, although in the source book he's a mage slash fighter. I don't really see that coming out in his character except for one part of it. But these two characters just pissed me off because they weren't your typical, not just typical fantasy characters, but typical Dungeons and Dragons characters. They were fucking annoying to read. They were just bitching and moaning and whining, and it was just fucking taxing. The more that I've read, the more that I've played Dungeons and Dragons and other role-playing games, these two characters are perfect. They are exactly what player characters are. And I know this from my own sessions with the friends that I play with. If this was a game, whoever was playing Arlen Moonblade and whoever was playing Danilo Than would do their best to fuck up the campaign. That's all there is to it. I can remember back in the day playing a Jester when for second edition, when Jester was a subclass you could play, and just being completely batshit crazy and derailing everything. So with that in mind, these two characters were great. The book was fantastic. I highly recommend you go out, read it, find it for yourself. If you don't, however, want to do that and you just want to know what happens in the story, then there's going to be a spoiler-filled review coming up. But if you're the sort of person that kind of sees this and goes, that sounds interesting, I want to read it for myself, by all means, switch videos to another Playgrounds Media one. They're all great. But if you do want to know what happens, then just stick around for the next episode of
Read a fucking book. Read a fucking book. People.
Okay, let's get into Elfshadow. The book actually starts with an assassination, and it happens on the Isle of Evermeet, which is where the kind of elves migrated to after Mithranor was taken over by an army of evil. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, then just go and do some research with Google. The person that is assassinated happens to actually be the king. And the assassin, who is not actually looking for the king, but looking for someone else, it's a little bit of a comedy of errors, but the king of Evermeet, the king of the elves, is killed. Now, before I continue, there are different types of elves. There's grey elves, moon elves, gold elves, dark elves, all sea elves, all different kind of elves in this book. But we are mainly dealing with moon elves and gold elves. So the story jumps forward after this king is assassinated. And we have the character of Arlen Moonblade. She is a former assassin who is sometimes hired by the Harpers to kind of do jobs and whatnot. She was trained by this arms master in Evereska, this elven city on the mainland of Faerun. And Harpers are being killed, and their bodies are being found with the Harper symbol kind of etched onto the palm of their hand. So when a friend of Arlen's is killed, she decides she's got to kind of find out what is going on. And she travels to Everesca. While she is there, she meets this guy that is actually trying to kill her because he took one of her eyes out, this bandit. And in order to escape, she kidnaps this nobleman, Danilo Than. Danilo is not just a dandy, not just a nobleman. He is actually the nephew of Kelvin Blackstaff Aronson, one of the most powerful mages in Faerun. And he's also a kind of Harper agent. And he has been tasked by his uncle to keep an eye on Arlen to find out what is going on with these assassinations. Arlen takes him captive. They kind of escape. He does everything in his power to kind of stick with her while all of this shit is going on. She is kind of receiving messages from her former arms master, this elf called Kaiman. And we find out through conversations between her and Danilo that because she's a half-elf, she was tormented at the academy by this asshole called, I think his name is Tintagel. And she kind of has this aversion to getting close to people due to her name. She doesn't really know who her father was. And for all intents and purposes, she doesn't really know who her mother was. For all she knows, her mother was this woman called Zaberel. They end up traveling to Waterdeep, where she meets with this other moon elf by the name of Elith Cronulba. I'm going to butcher these fucking names. The Serpent. This guy's known as the Serpent. And for all intents and purposes, he's a really fucking bad guy. She's trying to get information on this assassin. This guy believes she is the assassin. She is not. In between all of this happening, she does do a job that takes her to Darkhold, this Zentarum fortress. But that really has nothing to kind of do with the story. It's just a really great chapter in the book. So Danilo is kind of sticking with her. Elaine really believes that she is the assassin and wants to kind of utilize the power. Now, Arlen has a sword, this sword, the Moonblade. These are elven forged weapons that are passed down through family bloodlines, and whenever someone gets the weapon itself, they can imbue a new magic power into it. So her blade has a ton of magic powers. She has no idea what they are, but she's trying to kind of work it out. So she discovers through her kind of investigations that the blade itself used to have a moonstone in the hilt. Now it has a topaz that was put there by her arms master. And she knows some of the powers of the blade, like it glows when danger's around and those kind of things. She doesn't know all of them, and she hasn't wanted to ever find out what all of them are. So her and Danilo kind of go on the hunt for this assassin. In the interim, more Harpers are killed, and she is feeling guilty. She kind of blames herself. She finds this mage in a tavern who can read some of the runes on the scabbard of this sword. Part of the power of the Moonblade is no one else can actually touch it. And those powers that read are Elfshadow and Elfgate. And she doesn't know what these mean. and the wizard that she talks to, who is actually an agent of the Harpers, doesn't know what it means either. All while this is going on, she's being followed by this human Harper ranger called Bran. Now, what's interesting is that Bran has a connection to Arlen. He is, in fact, her father. And Elaine knows this because Elaine was friends with her mother actually being the princess of Evermeet, who brought shame on her family by falling in love with a human, and thus kind of getting banished from Evermeet. So Arlen really doesn't know her history, that she is actually a princess and that her father has been tracking her the whole time. The Harpers, believing her to be the Harper assassin, want her killed. So all of this kind of culminates. Arlen and Danilo journey through the Marsh of Shlima to get back to Waterdeep, and they fight Lizardmen and goblins. And Arlen is kind of suspicious of Danilo because he acts like he's this foppish dandy, but in actual fact he's not. He's quite an accomplished mage and fighter and bard as well. We find out that Arlen used to be part of this company of adventurers, but during the time of troubles, which, if you don't know what that is, go and watch my videos, Shadowdale, Waterdeep, and Shadowdale, Tantris, and Waterdeep. One of the mages cast a spell during battle, cast a fireball that just incinerated everyone but her. She didn't realize she was being protected from fire by the sword. So they kind of go and they get information. They travel to Candlekeep, this giant library in the Forgotten Realms, to get more information on who owned the sword and the sword's powers. Arlen realizes that she doesn't know a lot about the sword. She seeks information from a Selkie, which is kind of like a transforming underwater shape-shifting seal human thing, which she befriended after saving its mate, and then that kind of comes full circle where she gets kind of the information that she seeks, and ultimately she ends up knowing that the assassin is this thing in the sword called the Elfshadow. The Elfshadow was created by one of the wielders of the blade, one of her ancestors who had a sister, and the sister was killed, a twin sister who ventured out on the ocean and was killed. And in order to kind of bring the sister back, the Moonblade created this creature, this Elfshadow, who is a kind of insubstantial elven assassin, so to speak. Arlen, knowing that these things are all connected and that her former arms master that put the topaz in the sword itself in order to control the Elfshadow. So the Elfshadow has been doing the bidding of her former arms master, goes to seek him out. Now, his motive is to get back to Evermeet and basically slay everyone and become the ruler of the fucking elves. The Moonstone was taken out of the blade because it could open an elf gate and is in possession of her father, who has been kind of following her. So all of this comes to a head. She decides to go after her former arms master. Danilo meets with his uncle, and his uncle is like, you need to move the moon gate. The moon gate is in Everesca, and this guy knows where it is. If he knows where it is, Evermeet is going to be fucked. You've got to move it. Here's the spell to move it, and gives him the scroll. And Danilo kind of gets it straight away, which shows how powerful a mage he actually is. So Danilo and Arlen's father, Bran, go to Evereska to wait for her. She arrives there, and a fight kind of ensues between her and her former arms master. She doesn't have any weapons. The Moonblade is better off. She kept it in Kelvin's tower. Danilo stole it and left an illusion there. So he gets to this fight, and Arlen is being overwhelmed, and he gives her the Moonblade, and so she fights back. And while this is happening, Danilo casts a spell to move the Elf Gate to somewhere of safety. Bran convinces Arlen not to kill this guy, but to put him on trial because everyone thinks she's the Harper assassin, which he goes to trial, is found guilty, and Arlen is exonerated. And at the end of the novel, Arlen asks Danilo, where did you move the Elf Gate? And he actually moved it to the bedchambers of Kelvin's betrothed, I guess, who is an elf that spends most of her time in Evermeet, so she can easily come back and forth between Kelvin and the people there. Arlen is given a Harper badge by her father. Danilo is also given a Harper badge, so now they are Harpers. And Arlen, in the fight with her arms master, manages to subdue the Elfshadow so that she now is in full control of the weapon, and she gives it a new power, meaning that now Danilo can actually wield it if he needs to, and you kind of get the feeling that they are going to go off and adventure together. Of course, I left a lot out of this. There are a lot of like little interactions and whatnot between the characters, but holy shit, was this a fun read. This was absolutely fantastic. I did not give it a chance in high school. So much so that the second book in this Song and Sword series, called Elf Song, I've actually tracked down, ordered, and am looking forward to read and review for all you little Plaguelanians out there. Would I recommend this? Of course, Elaine Cunningham, fantastic writer. I love the tie-ins to the Forgotten Realms mythos and whatnot. And I love the fact that if you're a fan of second edition, then you get these characters' stats, you get the abilities of the Moonblade. If we look at what her Moonblade can do, Rapid Strike, glows to warn of coming danger, silently warns dangers is present by humming, dream warning, so if the wielder of the Moonblade is asleep, she'll get a dream, or they'll get a dream and wake up and know that there's danger. Fire resistance, illusion, this is something that she uses the sword for in the novel, to change her appearance so people will not know it's her. Elfshadow, of course, Elf Gate, and she lifted the killing restriction on who can bear the sword. This was just a really fun read. If you want her D&D stats, she's a chaotic good, half-elven female, fighter, level 12, with a specialization in longsword, if that means anything to you. So that was Elfshadow, book 2 of the Harpers, book 1 of Songs and Swords, right there. Not much else to say. I'm looking forward to book 3 of the Harpers, which I actually ordered and have right here, which is Red Magic, which I can tell you, one of my favorite D&D novels when I was in high school. So let's see how it holds up when I read and review it for you Plaguelandians. So, there you have it. If you enjoyed the video, fantastic. Tell your friends, like and subscribe. Leave a comment if you want to. You don't have to. Most importantly of all, though, stay safe. Have a fantastic rest of your day. And, of course, read a fucking book, people. No, I'm fucking serious. Like, go and read a fucking book. Or don't. You know what? Do whatever the fuck you want, but read a fucking book.